You're listening to Standing Before the Mast podcast with Chris Eaton, sponsored by Newport Nautical Supply.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the latest podcast episode. My guest for this one is Captain Eric Pfirrmann, lead captain for Save the Bay here in Rhode Island. As some of you more astute listeners may recall, Eric was my first ever guest when I embarked upon this experimental podcast journey. Like me, Eric had just finished a long day at work and arrived directly from his boats. So we decided to end the workday with a nice IPA. We begin by catching up on the Save the Bay fleet, and Eric brings us up to speed on their latest edition and some of the future roles he foresees that craft playing at Save the Bay. He gives us a bit of background on the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972 and the influence it's had on the seals we see here in Narragansett Bay. That, of course, leads us to a discussion of the current seal watch tours at Save the Bay. Eric tells us everything we need to know to have an enjoyable trip with his team. Good binoculars are a plus, and how to dress and just be prepared in general. And of course, we talk about the annual Save the Bay swim. Eric gives us some insight into the planning and logistics that go into organizing this event, which also includes close monitoring of the weather. And we talk about last summer's canceled event due to fog. You can learn more and book seal tours by visiting savebay.org. That's SAVEBAY.org. And as this is the last podcast episode of 2021, I'm already well in the process of making contacts and working on topics for 2022. I hope you enjoy. So how many boats do you have in the fleet?
Save the Bay now has 5 boats we own. 3 are inspected vessels. So Coast Guard passenger for hire vessels. And then we have two smaller work boats. They're for our bay keepers. Well, our bay keeper and our coast keeper. So, and that one's we got a Parker 23 with cuddy cabin and a Parker 18 center console.
Oh, nice.
The 18's getting a little long in the tooth. That'll be our next replacement.
Right.
So
how do you use the smaller boats?
So the small boats are work boats for our on the water advocacy guys. So they're kind of the watchdogs, the bay keeper and the coast keeper. So they're constantly out doing water quality monitoring. They also will respond to any potential problems to make sure that we have eyes on it, and that way we can respond. So, and we also do a lot of other kind of work and some donor work with them, but for the most part, they're for the bay keepers. They're our first response boats.
And the Alita, and what's the other one?
Alita Morris, Elizabeth Morris, our newest vessel, Rosemary Quinn.
Oh, what's that?
She is a 31-foot aluminum catamaran landing craft.
Oh, nice.
She's the new baby. She just got here in July and finally cleared all the paperwork of inspection in right around the beginning of October. So she's all set and ready to go.
You get a car on it? You get a small car on it?
You could. She's got the stability sort of checks out at about 5,000 pounds.
Oh, right.
So yeah, you could put a small car on it. I scoped her out for smallest little excavator that I think it's John Deere makes, and our habitat restoration people have been working with that piece of equipment, which is actually owned by the state, and the state runs it, but on some projects that we're doing for salt marsh restoration. It's actually really salt marsh adaptation to give salt marshes a chance against rising sea levels.
Right.
So a lot of moving sand and mud around in that project. So, so I scoped that out just to make sure that in the next 15, 20 years, we're going to be doing a lot of that. And if we do need to bring that equipment out to a more isolated spot that we will have the ability to do it.
What is she powered by? An outboard?
She's twin Yamaha 225s.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
but that gets up on it when she's empty.
She can move right along, but the biggest thing is making sure that we have enough power to get a full load up to 20 knots.
Right.
So.
Now I'm picturing something with like tracks on it.
Yeah,
digger.
that's what those excavators are. Whether or not she ever sees one, I'm not sure, but that's what I had in mind when I was doing my original concept for her.
Kent had something like that.
Kent's got a slightly smaller, beautiful boat. It's offhand, I can't quite remember, but it's actually a Canadian built boat. Really well built. But obviously Canadian built, so not useful for
passengers.
Yeah.
No need to go down the whole waiver for the Jones Act route again.
No. We've done that before. And there's plenty of people who can build us a nice small aluminum boat here in the U.S.
Sure.
So
yeah. Seal watches. You just resumed.
We did a little bit with the new boat out of Westerly in October and November, but the Newport Seal watches are getting underway. Got underway last weekend. Had a great weekend, 2 trips both days, Saturday and Sunday. So we'll run those trips all the way through just about the end of April, running on weekends and the bigger school vacations. So they run according to the time of tide.
Right.
So you got to go out somewhere near low tide. So that means there's no fixed time that we depart.
Right.
So it can be anywhere from 10 a.m. to, I think in April we managed to do a few 4, 5, or even 6 o'clock trips. But obviously this time of year that wouldn't work.
No, that's not going to, you're not going to see much.
No.
Unless they smile at you or something.
That's it. Unless they have flares.
Where are the spots that you go for the seals, or are they secret?
So primarily we're going out right to the east side of Rhode Island. So there's a little set of rocks there called Sighting Rock, actually spelled Citing. I have no idea why it's named that, but that's probably the seal's second favorite location in the bay. So for seal numbers, usually that'll be kind of the number 2 spot after Rome Point in North Kingstown, which a little bit more. That one you can actually walk down to. It's about a mile walk down from Route 1A at the John H. Chafee Wildlife Refuge.
Oh, we see all the cars parked there. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. But if you head down there at low tide, bring some binoculars. It's a little bit of a look, but that's another great spot to see 'em.
Is there any kind of government agency that oversees or regulates, like you can't get too close to the wildlife type group? So
seals, like all marine mammals, are covered by the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972. And that, in a nutshell, says that we cannot kill, harm, or harass marine mammals. So seals, porpoise, whales, polar bears. And somehow sea turtles get thrown in there too. But the basic thing of the law is you cannot approach a marine mammal closer than 50 yards, so about 150 feet, or if your activities cause a change in their behavior. So you might be quite a bit farther than 150 feet, and if you are having a significant impact on their behavior, then you actually are in violation of the act.
Right. So it's just the act is there and it's for all to comply to.
Yeah.
It's not like there's some government agency that issues permits for this type of activity.
No. I think things like whale watches might get a little tighter control, but seals not quite so much.
There's a video, and I forgot where I saw it. It might have been on the Martha's Vineyard Striped Bass and Bluefish Tournament Facebook page. Somebody was on the island home in between Woods Hole and Vineyard Haven, and a whale breached.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, they must have done it more than once because they caught one of them on video. It's like, it's in Vineyard Sound.
Well, we did have that one weird humpback whale that was in the bay for, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, maybe 6 winters ago.
Oh, really?
And there is one picture of it breaching with the Mount Hope bridge in the background, but that's the only case I know of a apparently healthy large whale in the bay.
Wow. What are your COVID policies? Do you require vaccinations or mask?
At this point, we are following Rhode Island Department of Health guidelines, which this year, with vaccinations, have definitely scaled back from what they were. We do recommend that if you aren't vaccinated, that you wear a mask, but we aren't requiring it because we are an outdoor activity. We're kind of bouncing around now that COVID is kind of making a little bit of a comeback. We're just making sure that we're well ventilated. It might be a little chillier than when we can
The curtains are
drop. There are some curtains, but maybe not all of them. But just to make sure that we've got good airflow, so we really are an outdoor activity.
Right.
And if we'll stick with that unless Department of Health changes how they're approaching things. But hopefully, now that everyone's or not everyone, of course, but now that most people are vaccinated, we are hoping that we're just going to be able to continue without having to curtail anything. Last year, we were pretty successful, but we did need to drop we were running at about 1/3 capacity. So,
okay.
So it's rather nice to see a fuller boat.
Right. Imagine with the school trips, though, you have a higher percentage of people who aren't vaccinated.
Yeah. So we'll have to carefully watch that. But I think the schools are really doing a wonderful job, and we'll follow, of course, whatever the school's policy is, which most schools, I believe, are still doing a masked policy. So we'll just follow along whatever the individual school's policy is, and that way we'll keep everybody safe.
And where's your pickup and drop off?
So we're picking up and dropping off at Bowen's Ferry Landing.
Oh, right.
So that's the end of Market Square. It's right next to the Landing restaurant, in between the Landing and Pier 49 there.
Oh,
which I think
some of the names.
I think they're calling it Saltwater. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But the old Newport Harbor Hotel,
right?
Treadway, the Treadway. if you want to be a proper Rhode Islander, we've been there for a number of years. So
yeah,
that's kind of our winter home.
Tough in a west blow.
It can be a little lumpy in a west blow there. Yeah. Remember that, was it last year or the year before when we got that one tremendous southwest blow where it was blowing over 70 for a couple of hours, and it certainly did a lot of damage. I don't remember if there were any boats went down.
I was thinking of one that, well, maybe the one I'm thinking of was in the summer where there was a big blow, and Sail Newport actually had a seminar on it afterwards about dealing with this because it was a unique microblast.
Oh, I think that one was toward the end of summer and one of the last days of Tuesday or Thursday night racing.
Right.
And a big squall came through and really, one of those once in 5-10 year squalls came through. And now this one was still in March or so, and it was just whatever it was perfect wind direction to blow pretty much straight out of Brenton Cove down to really Parati Park.
Right.
So, it was that one was a doozy, but luckily I have always had the motto that if you double up every time, you don't have to get up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So my boats were are always prepared for a blow. So we fared all right, but boy, oh boy, that one was crazy.
Yeah, that'll wake you up.
Yeah.
We're talking of weather. What's the weather threshold that would cause you to cancel a trip?
I always use this is, I think, the best rule that any mariner can have. If the wind is more than the temperature, you don't go out. And that works winter, spring, summer, or fall.
Right.
Because if it's 10 degrees out and it's blowing more than 10, you definitely don't want to go out.
Right.
But if it's 70 degrees out and it's blowing more than 70,
Yeah.
you still don't want to go out. We do have actually some a little bit more elaborate guidance, which I won't go out if the wind chill is less than 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And I won't go out if the actual temperature is less than 20 degrees. Sure, we could. And for an hour-long trip, everybody's fine. But being the prudent mariners,
Right.
you have to think about what happens if. All it takes is just something stupid like you snag your props on a lobster trap and you're out there for an extra 45 minutes. That's when you start to think about the things that could happen. So you got to build in wintertime. You really do need to build in a really good safety net.
I was talking to somebody that did a lot of frostbiting with the Newport Yacht Club. Of course, they start January 1st. And I think it started as sort of like a bet. The guys were sitting at a bar on New Year's Day and said, I bet you can't sail over to Fort Adams or Goat Island or whatever it was. But they use a rule. I think they call it the 20-20 rule. They don't go out if the wind's over 20 or if the temperature's below 20.
It's a pretty safe bet right there. Yeah.
Pretty standard.
For us, it also varies a little bit because it does affect the seals themselves. They don't care about the temperature.
No.
But for the primary location that we're going to, sighting rocks pretty exposed in a northerly. And anytime it gets a little lumpy, say over 2 foot, the seals just start getting annoyed by it. I guess it's probably not that comfortable to be sitting on a rock and getting bashed by a wave at the same time. So there's that gets added into it. So if it's blowing 15 out of the northwest, we might have to think about not going out. But if it's blowing 20 out of the southwest, where Rhode Island's are nice lee,
sure,
then you're fine. So
is it right that they call that hauling out?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is see resting seals, which is one of the reasons why you don't really want to disturb them. Nobody likes their nap to get disturbed. The seals can and do sleep while they're in the water. They call that bottling. So they float straight up and down in the water. They just kind of tip their heads back and they can breathe. But then, even though this sounds crazy, they're sleeping for like 30 seconds at a time. It's like sleep apnea, I guess. But it's not as restful as if they can get up and out. And then they'll lounge there for, pretty much the entire tide cycle. So
sunbathing.
It's sunbathing. Sometimes rain bathing.
I was surfing. I can't remember if it was first or second beach, but it was in the winter and I had a wetsuit with a hood and everything. And I'm paddling back out and I was down by the rocks because the current was sweeping me down. I had to keep paddling back. And I looked over my shoulder and there's this black object and there was this 3 other people out there surfing. And I said to him, that was a good wave you caught. It wasn't a person. It was a seal. and I thought, oh, that's different. So that was an interaction with nature that I didn't. I violated whatever.
Well, I think the seal violated the Marine Mammal Protection Act. There, I've heard a lot of anecdotes about people either surfing or even diving and having a seal come up and say hi. I've heard of guys sitting on their surfboards and having a seal come up and tug on their flipper.
Yeah.
Which I got to imagine is a little bit of your not thinking it's a seal when that happens.
Right. Yeah, I think that would spook me. I got spooked. I was very late season. I want to say late April even. I was snowboarding at Cannon Mountain in Franconia, New Hampshire, and I was gunning it down this trail and 3 little bears came out of the woods, followed by mama bear.
Uh-oh.
I tucked in and I went for it. I couldn't get on the lift fast enough. And I told the lift guy, and he said, oh, I better alert the patrollers.
Yeah, that's not so fun.
No, because I'm thinking the mama bear was looking out for the 3 cubs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And she's probably hungry and angry. All she's been doing is cooped up in a little den for the last couple of months with these little brats.
How long does the season last? You said the other week.
Yeah, we start seeing seals showing up generally in any number in November. Now, years past, pre-COVID, we'll call it, we would generally start our Newport season either the weekend of Thanksgiving or the weekend before. The seals are coming down. They're migrating down, usually beginning sometime in the fall. Now, they aren't migrating in a big pack or anything. It's just individual seals deciding it's time to go. And they're really following their food source. So, we get schools of herring and mackerel start migrating down the coast, leaving coastal Canada, coast of Maine, where these guys spend their summer months. And the seals just follow their food.
What do they eat?
They're really not picky eaters. Pretty much anything that swims, crawls, slithers in the water, they're going to eat it. But that being said, herring, mackerel are two of their biggest staples of their diet. But they're very opportunistic, so they'll eat pretty much any fish that they can come across. And they need to eat somewhere close to 10% of their body weight a day.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean that every day they're going out and eating that. Maybe one day they'll go out and eat 20%.
Right.
Not eat for a couple of days. But they do eat a lot of fish. But again, it's one of those natural predator-prey relationships where if there's not enough fish, well, there's not going to be enough seals shortly thereafter. So, so that will keep a natural balance. So we can't really blame them when fish numbers drop off, or at least not in the long run.
Right. Have you seen, in the years you've been doing it, have you seen fluctuations in the population? Because I know lobstermen talk about, they have banner years and then they have skinny years.
For seals, it does seem that we've kind of hit a relatively steady population. There are some years, I think, maybe due to the fluctuations, and this is just taking a wild guess here, maybe just due to the fluctuations of where the fish are.
Right.
You may see more seals in a certain area than other years, but the population seems fairly steady. Now, it's climbed from, when we were kids, there were no seals.
Right. Yeah. I don't ever remember seeing them.
So prior to 1972 and the passage of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, many states had bounties on seals. So, every fishing boat probably had a rifle on board, and you'd see a seal, you'd take a shot at it.
Wow.
Thinking that, seals are that competition. Seals are why the numbers of fish are dropping.
Sure.
Wait, let's get the newest sonar out so we can find every school. It's not that way. Yes, seals can bring numbers of fish down, but at the same time, they are a natural predator-prey relationship. So if they overeat, well, then some seals are going to go hungry and starve to death.
Right.
So their numbers will quickly drop.
One of our customers, who's the lobsterman, is convinced that seals have an opposable thumb and the ability to open up his lobster trap.
I do feel a little bad for the lobsterman. When you've got a trap at $80 to $100 trap, there are some seals that look at that as a boxed lunch.
Right.
Whether they go for the bait or go for what's already in the trap, I'm not even sure, but they can do a number on a lobster trap.
Really?
Yeah.
Right on site, or do they drag it somewhere?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I think probably right on site. Right I think that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know how often it happens, but I've definitely heard some stories about it.
Have the seals ever done anything really entertaining while you've had a group of people on board?
A lot of times they just sit there because we are, after all, going out to see resting seals. But they do sometimes get a little active. We actually just had a group out on Tuesday, and the seals were doing what we refer to as, or some of the seals were doing what we call porpoising. So they were actually jumping out of the water in a kind of arcing swim move. It's a very quick movement. It's probably when they're hitting their top speed, which is somewhere around 20 to 25 miles an hour.
Really?
I think they can do short bursts like that, but they move pretty good. They did put a tracker on a harbor seal that they had in rehabilitation one year at Mystic. They released it on Blue Shutters Beach down in Matunic. 3 days later, it was in Maine.
Whoa.
So yeah, they can move when they want to.
Yeah, I'd envy a passage like that.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. That's good southwest breeze, and they also use the Cape Cod Canal. So
they do.
They're not silly. They don't. No reason to go around when you
know
can
the
go
shortcut. Gee, that's amazing. What would you recommend people bring on a?
Biggest thing is dress for the weather.
Right.
It's always going to be colder on the water. It's always going to be a little breezier on the water. So make sure you've got a good few layers and one good wind breaking layer. Other than that, we've got binoculars. Feel free to bring your own because yours are probably dropped by less second graders than ours are. But we've got a pretty good supply right at the moment.
Right.
But other than that, feel free to. If you got a hot drink that you want to bring along, feel free for that. The trips are only an hour, so an elaborate set of snacks you probably don't need. It's always nice to have a little hot drink.
Right. Yeah, like a hot chocolate or something.
Yeah, but it's mostly the dressing for the weather. That's the key thing.
Right. Yeah, don't go out with no hat and gloves and say it's freezing out here.
No, in the winter, I carry an enormous bag with me wherever I go, and I swear it's full of all the clothing that I own. Because, it's, you never know.
Yeah.
And in the same trip, I can go from just about short sleeves to parka over a couple of jackets, so...
Do you require life jackets with people?
We do require life jackets for kids 13 and under. So, and pretty much all of our school groups will be in life jackets as well. But we've got plenty of the nice, comfortable type 3s for that.
Oh, right.
We don't put them in our type 1 big, huge, bulky ones.
Yeah, nobody shows up in the Gumby suit.
No.
Oh, that would be warm.
It would be warm. I've thought about it on occasion.
or even the step below that, the Mustang survival suit.
Yeah, one of those wouldn't be so bad on some days. Yeah,
the work suit. How do you get tickets?
We sell all of our tickets. Is done right on our website, which is www.savebay.org. We skipped the, so it's SAVEBAY.org.
And I'll drop a link in the liner notes.
Great. That would be wonderful. And then best way is just navigate to there. I think there's something on our homepage that you can click. That'll get you right to the spot where you can select a date and got to fill out a little bit of forms and stuff.
Do any third-party vendors book trips with you, or is it just your own internal?
We do. We definitely get some folks who book for a group or something like that. Anything from scout groups and birthday parties to I think we've taken out the Jamestown Garden Club women, which is quite fun.
Yeah. Surf and turf.
That's it. All kinds of different groups. Best way if you've got a group is actually just to contact us. The information is on the website, but contact directly to the office and then get you all set up.
And how are the boats crewed? You have a captain and then
captain, one crew. The crew is the formal guide, although you can't get away without hearing one of the captains kind of chime in. Chris and I are known to sprout crowd out a couple of facts.
Is the location at First Beach stable or secure? Because I know they're talking about moving the carousel.
So
You were sort of near the carousel.
So there's 3 buildings there. There's the carousel, the snack bar, and then the rotunda. The rotunda's the oldest, and that's the one that's not falling down, and that's where we are. The other 2 buildings are very structurally deficient. So the city's faced with a pretty big question of what they want to do down there. But the big news for us, just at the same time, Convention and Visitors Bureau gave up their long-term lease at the old Discovery Center. It's at the Visitor Center.
Oh,
there.
right. Opposite Carding's ball field.
Yeah.
By the Marine. Yeah.
We have just finished negotiating and signing a lease with the city to move the aquarium there.
Oh, cool.
So that is hoping to open somewhere around 18 months from now. So we're hoping to believe spring of 2023, but like all major projects, that's a sliding date.
A stretch.
And we'll be open at Easton's Beach until then. But that will factor into the city's plans at the beach. I'm not sure what they're going to want to do there. It's going to be an interesting debate.
Oh, and the other thing I was going to ask about, just to shift gears, the annual swim. When did you do it this year?
We did have to cancel in 2020 for COVID. This year, we were holding a scaled back swim. I think we had 150 swimmers, and everybody was incredibly psyched to get in the water and get going. And it was pea soup fog.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, the first time in 42 years that we'd had fog that bad.
Right.
We have about a half an hour window.
I was going to say, doesn't the captain of the port give you a window to work with?
It's a well-regulated thing. We have a marine event agreement with the Coast Guard. Unfortunately, it gives us about a half an hour, but that's about what the tide would, the current would allow. By about 30 minutes past the original time of the start, I had to make the call, which wasn't pleasant.
You weren't a popular guy.
Well, we've canceled twice in my time at Save the Bay. Once we canceled on a weather forecast, which was for 20 plus knots out of the northeast, it was pretty miserable. We canceled that one on the night before, so that way no one had to get up at 5 a.m.
Right.
This time, obviously, no one could see the other side, and the swimmers didn't want to get in the water when they couldn't see the other side. I couldn't bring my safety kayaks over from the other side where they launch.
Right.
So it was one of those things. No one wants to make the call, but no one questioned that one. It was certainly the only choice.
The siren on the bridge doesn't work in it. Well, they haven't used it.
Yeah,
I used to rely on that a lot.
That thing was great. Of course, I don't think it would help my swimmers much. If they swam to the siren, they'd still end up in the middle of the bay and off course. That probably wouldn't be so good either. For any swimmer, it's going to be very frustrating. It's like, well, it's probably going to burn off in 30 minutes. And you know what? It did.
It might, yeah.
But that would have been an hour after we had originally planned to start. So now you've got a strong current.
Right.
Which...
It's sweeping you the wrong way.
You have not. It's like, but we swim it all the time. Well, you swim it at the time that I plan for you to swim it. And that's pretty much the smallest bit of current that I can find.
Are people just rely on their own honesty and say, I'm a competent swimmer to do this? Or do you get people that maybe shouldn't be out there?
So anyone can sign up. You
don't have a qualifier or anything.
If you are going to swim without a accompanying kayak.
Oh, you allow that?
Most people actually do at this point swim without a kayak. We have a lot less who swim with a safety kayak now. We have our own safety squad of kayaks, which we're always looking for good kayakers to volunteer for that. So
Right.
throw that out there now. But if it's your first swim and you don't have a qualifier, and for a qualifier, generally it's written by an open water swim coach of some kind. And generally that's going to be for our younger kids. For everybody else, once you can do the swim and you've done a swim and you've done it, and I think it's less than an hour and a half or less than an hour and 20 minutes, then you can swim unaccompanied the next year.
Oh, I see.
I forget the exact details because I concentrate on the actual on the water stuff rather than the registration part, which is a huge.
How many assets are employed to manage this? I mean, you have your own vessels, then you have the Coast Guard.
So the Coast Guard Auxiliary provide a security zone, and added to them, they'll also have assets that we help them arrange with Department of Environmental Management, Port Harbor Master, Jamestown Harbor Master. And those guys have been doing this for as long as I've been doing it.
I think I saw one year, I saw Steve sort of situated off of near where you do the seal watch.
Yep.
To keep anyone from shooting out from the harbor and headed north under the bridge.
Yeah, we and over the years expanded the security zone, mostly so that we can turn people around before they commit themselves to heading up. So for people northbound, trying to stop you and turn you around south of Rhode Island, so that you're not getting up there, certainly south of the bridge. And generally for people who are southbound, we're trying to stop you near the north end of Gould Island. So that way, if you're trying to get out of the bay, you've still got the opportunity to bail and head west around
West Passage.
And head out West Passage. And that seems to work very well. They probably have near a dozen boats or so. And then I have our own actual safety team. That's going to be all of our boats. And then usually I'm shooting for somewhere around a dozen boats. 10 to 12 is pretty comfortable. And we'll set up on both sides of the line of swimmers, essentially. And then we'll have another 25 to 35 safety kayaks that aren't assigned to anybody, that are just looking after everyone. And they'll be able to be inside our safety boats, and they can be first on the scene. They can actually be in and amongst the swimmers looking for any problems. And then they'll alert us to bring a boat in if need be.
Right. If someone's distressed, what are the kayaker raise their paddle?
Yeah, that's usually that's the best way. Also a whistle, but the raised paddle is the quickest and easiest method. Well,
that's a fundraiser, right?
It's still one of our major fundraisers. But even more important, it speaks to our overall mission. So when we started the swim, it was 43 years ago, or will be shortly.
Right.
People were getting out of the water with tar balls on them.
Really?
And
that's not cool.
That's not cool. No, that's not cool at all. Now, if you saw even more than a little sheen on the water, you kind of get a little surprised. So the health of the bay has come an incredibly long way. The swim is just that capstone thing that we just every year we remind ourselves how far we've come, and how many people appreciate the bay, love the bay, wouldn't be in Rhode Island if it wasn't for the bay.
What's there to receive them at the Jamestown side?
So
coffee.
Usually put on a pretty good shindig over there. There's a hospitality tent that's got all kinds of good end of athletic activity snacks and that sort of thing. We've usually got some massage tables going. There's a medic tent, all kinds of fun stuff. It's lots and lots of people, the families, lots of Save the Bay supporters cheering you on. It's a really amazing thing when people are coming out of the water. There's literally couple hundred people cheering you on.
And how do they get back? I assume, where do they start? The War College right here?
So, yep, right out in front of the War College, down at the bottom of the hill there. And then it's 1.7 nautical miles, 2 statute miles, over to Potter Cove, pretty much right by the hospitality tents are right on the lawn, right by the old now toll booths. It's quite the event over there, and it's an event I've never been to. I'm always dealing with the last of the swimmers, and then buttoning up the course.
Maybe
and
next year you put yourself in that landing craft.
Maybe. But usually I'm on one of our 2 bigger vessels, and I'm last several years I've been the lead boat, so I'll follow or be a couple hundred yards to the north of the lead swimmer, who's booking, by the way.
Really?
Lead swimmer usually finishes somewhere in the 35 to 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fast. You stay in gear following that person the whole way across.
It's not Michael Phelps, is it?
No. There's some amazing swimmers out there. And then I'll maintain a position somewhere about a half mile or so north of Taylor Point there, the entrance to Potter Cove. And then all the swimmers will eventually pass between Taylor Point and my boat. And then we'll have our other big boat following the last swimmer. And that way there's a big boat marking the last person. And there's a big boat marking the first person. And then there's a fairly decent sized boat that is actually marking where you're supposed to go, because the perspective, I guess, from just got your head out of the water is quite a bit different from the perspective when you're 5-6 feet up on a boat.
Yeah. And then that would really, you could see we're in the fog.
There's no way they would. And we wouldn't be able to see them to take care of them. The Coast Guard couldn't see far enough to maintain a security zone. So it's just, that was the first one. Luckily, this coming year, where essentially we've got there's about a 4 or 5 week window of when you can do the swim. And I'm shooting for a specific tide and current situation, so that it's going to be just about the end of the ebb, then say end of the ebb, maybe half hour, 45 minutes into the swim, and then the beginning of the flood.
Right.
But it's also got to be on
early in the morning. So you can't really do a start after, say, 9:30, just too much boat traffic, too much wind. You also want the quarter moons. You don't want the new moon or the full moon. So there's really only a couple of times that you can. So you really got to stick your head in Eldritch and.
Yep. There's I generally, sometime right after the previous year's swim, I print out every bit of tidal and current prediction for the upcoming August and September, July and August, I guess.
And, what time of year is it? I thought it was in June, but
July and August.
It's July and August.
Yeah. So that's when I have the opportunity. This year, luckily, we'll be running in August, which I think we're the first weekend in August, if I remember correctly, which it's actually going to be after Folk Fest and Jazz Fest. So no, don't have to worry about those guys, and hopefully don't have to worry quite as much about the fog that we did last year.
Right. Yeah, because I always picture fog earlier, but it can come anytime.
Yeah. But this year, I think we were relatively early last year. It's just, that's the way the tide cycle worked. And unfortunately, the fog cycle worked that way too.
Exactly. Well, cool. Well, thanks. That was a hell of a catch up.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Standing Before the Mast podcast with Chris Heaton, sponsored by Newport Nautical Supply. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.